What's going on, guys? Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking out the chat. Who is not goosed up going into this Sunday, huh? Dolphins, Bills for the whole enchilada. AFC East Championship on the line. Hope you guys tune into the pregame show. Miami 56 WQAM. Game Day Uncensored, 4 p.m. We get going for you. Myself, Omar Kelly, Alejandro Solana will have all your coverage leading up to Sunday night football. You know what's hilarious, dude? You ever just really just not like a fan base, not just because they're obnoxious, but because they're belly achers. You know, they always have an excuse about something. It's like Celtics fans, you know. Tatum was out. It was in a bubble. Who cares? You know, these dummies who will have things like, well, the Bills fan is like that a lot. So I'm perusing Dolphins Reddit, and I see some story which could only be thrown up by the Bills. And it's a story which is hilarious. It says, officiating crew that throws the most flags on road teams draws Bills and Dolphins, which is hilarious that we're going to sit here and preemptively go to the spot where we're going to say, oh, the fix is already in because they're going to call penalties on the Bills all day. Hilarious. And it writes, if you are an anxious Buffalo Bills fan and into conspiracy theories or just need something to keep the stress off till Sunday, we offer you this. Alex Kemp and his crew have drawn the assignment for the Bills against the Miami Dolphins. Kemp's crew is tied for the second most penalties called this season at 14.75 per game. Of those penalties, an average of 7.13 flags are on the visiting team, the most of any crew. So, hilarious. Now, it does point out that the home teams are under 500 in these games, but it is funny that, like, already, you know, this is going to be one of those things that if the game goes sideways for the Bills, they're going to get to, which is also hilarious because the first story that I read this morning was from Pro Football Talk, which was talking about there's going to be more Bills fans there than Dolphins fans, which is patently absurd. Like, the sourcing on that was just completely ridiculous, that there's going to be more Buffalo Bills fans in Hard Rock Stadium come Sunday night than Dolphins. There'll be a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's always they travel well. I'm not going to hate on the Bills fan. We've seen the video from the Elbow Room in Fort Lauderdale Beach, and you know, hopefully you guys pick a little bit more of a convenient stay this time around for this game, especially night. It's a long time to drive back all the way up to Broward. But it was just very funny to me that this is what we're doing. Like, we're really gonna do a thing where we're like, oh, they're gonna sell more than even the Dolphins fan has. I'm just like, I can't. I'm sorry. No sale on that for me. But the Dolphins are certainly dealing with their fair share of things going into this game, namely the health of their two weapons, because Tyreek Hill did not practice today. He was limited the day before. Now, I don't know if this had to do with the house being out or has to do with him and his health. But he did not practice today. He did deal with a pretty traumatizing thing with his house getting on fire. Supposedly, the investigator said it was because of a child had a lighter, which would freak me out as a father, just knowing that first of all, my kid was in imminent danger, and then second of all, was in a fire, and that any of that stuff happens, and plus apparently there's a hole in his house. So I imagine that the fire might have had something to do with it. But if not, we also know that he was in a walking boot, so you got to keep an eye on that. Mostert, they've been putting him on ice in these practices, so he didn't go, and they put Jaylen Waddle as a DNP. He did do a walkthrough because we know Mike McDaniel didn't rule him out, which was huge news because the reports were going into the Ravens game. He wasn't going to be back until the playoffs. So the fact that we have Jaylen Waddle at this spot where he's even trying to give it a go is absolutely huge. Same goes for Jerome Baker. And look, people, you can say whatever you want about Jerome Baker. The dude has kind of held on to that position basically since he's been here. And it's kind of a thankless position, middle linebacker. It's one of these that, I don't think, gets the flash plays a lot of the times. But, he obviously, through different coordinators, has had it thrown that, like, hey, this guy can handle calling a defense and will do better than some covering guys, because I just feel like Duke Riley got abused that last game. It was really tough. And I don't know if Jerome Baker would have done any better against Justice Hill, but it's hard to imagine that he would have done worse. So the idea that they could get him back would be absolutely huge. Fangs was talking about this today, just how much they missed him. And the other thing with Vic Fangio that's going to be interesting is this is a big moment for him in that, you know, he comes here, you're supposed to be the defensive wizard. You have all the weapons, right? Everything is there for you. But now you have a couple of pieces missing. How can he figure out how to slow this down, knowing that you don't have your 2-star pass rushers? They do still have Van Ginkel. They do still have Agba. So they have guys who are capable of getting after the quarterback, even if it's not the ideal fit. And I think that's the thing that I'm going to be interested with Vic Fangio is, okay, you don't have all the tools that you want, right? You don't have every ideal weapon in every ideal place, but you have capable guys. And can he get to a spot where he schemes this the right way to slow down Buffalo and especially, you know, put Josh Allen in a position where he could turn over the football? But we know it's a big ask. I mean, I'm not running from the fact that Josh Allen has mostly had the Dolphins in a baby Bjorn his entire career. And he comes down here with, you know, winning a ton of games against them. 10 of the last 11 this franchise has won against Miami. There's been games where they've drubbed them. Last year it was mostly close. Last year a lot of those games came down to the wire. Even the game with Skylar Thompson was still in the fold for portions in that game. So, you know, I don't know what the Dolphins could do to look back to that. If there are things that they could look at and say, hey, what made this successful? Where do we go from making this a competitive place? Because, you know, you're in a spot right now where you just got drubbed and you've had a month that has had a lot of emotional roller coasters between the meltdown against Tennessee, beating Dallas last second, getting absolutely clubbed by the Ravens, and now having this winner-take-all game in your building. So, you know, I really just think this does show a lot for Miami. I'm still riding with them, dude. I still am. I think this year has been tremendously fun, but they have basically been prepping themselves for this. And I may be a fool because I know a lot of people are talking curse and same old Dolphins, and they want to be in that belief. But I do believe that this is a vulnerable Bills team still. I do think that this is a team that, you know, has shown the propensity to yak all over itself and be in spots where they can make critical mistakes that cost them games. So I'm very interested to see where this goes. I'm interested to see how Miami starts in this game because I do think that a quick start would go a long way for them. So it is going to be interesting to see. And then, of course, the big elephant in the room is around Uno and him as a quarterback. You know, we were talking this week on the radio show about his grade for the season. And in a lot of ways, for him, this is the final exam. This is the thing that weighs the most out of everything. I think that if you were to just say, hey, just made the Pro Bowl, he leads the league in passing, he played every damn game this year, you know, was pretty much, you know, marvelous, had some turnover issues in the middle of the year, cleaned a lot of that up. Had some terrible moments in a game where they could have won the 1 seed, but it was on the road against the best team in the league, so it's not like he did it against bums. But can he take this moment here, a game in his building where he has been dominant in his career? He has been great at Hard Rock Stadium. From, you know, the time that he's walked and put on a Miami Dolphins uniform, walked into Miami Gardens and put on a Miami Dolphins uniform, even back to the Flow days, he has been very, very good in that building. I don't know the record offhand. I want to say it's somewhere in the realm of 19-6. Let me stat muse this for your ass real quick. Tua record at home all time. 22-5 in his career. Although I think one of those, let's say it's 21-5, because I think one of those was a non-real playing because they're counting his debut where he got in there late. But 21-5 in his career, dude, at Hard Rock Stadium. Only 5 losses at Hard Rock Stadium. You know, had just an absolute crazy meltdown against Tennessee for them, and to have that loss this year in their building, their only loss this year in this building. This is all set up for the Dolphins, man. I don't want to hear about Bills Mafias coming in here or crooked referees or any of this stuff. You got a team, you got everything that you built for this year. It was building to this game. You had some chances where this could have maybe not been as awful, and maybe you didn't get the signature win that you wanted until late against the Dallas Cowboys. But for the most part, the Dolphins have taken care of their business all season long. And what happens when you take care of your business? You put yourself in a really, really great position. And that great position for them is you win this game in a place that you've been very good at, and you set yourself up to have at least one home game. But if you win, you get to keep having home games, maybe all the way until the Super Bowl if the Ravens get knocked out. And if they don't, you get at least two. So this is a monster. And I do think it weighs a lot on Tua. And you want to call it a legacy game. You want to call it a final exam game. You want to call it a show me game. You want to say, hey, this proves you're not lefty Kirk Cousins, or this shows that you're elite and we're weighing it fairly or unfairly, and this is the only thing that matters. Hey, this is nothing that the dude isn't used to, right? And for Tua, honestly, he has a coach who does believe in him. I do think that he has a locker room that believes in him. I think he has a lot of this fan base that believes in him. I think he has a lot of people that do root him on and believe that this guy is capable of leading his team and getting him into a big spot and getting them in prime position for a postseason run. And I'm really rooting for him to get this part of the story and get this ending that we're all hoping for, because, you know, to go from broken hip, fall in the draft, come into a place, badgering coach, scheming to get Deshaun Watson, Rat Fink, starting quarterback who tries to get the locker room against you, and Ryan Fitzpatrick, scheming ownership in the shadows trying to get Tom Brady and Sean Payton, to come through all that. And the story's been talked about. The build-up in confidence has been beautiful. All of those parts of the story have been great, and they've been told, and I'm glad that they have been. I'm glad we've gotten to see it. But now you just need him to be a franchise QB. Now you need him to help lead this team and get them in position to beat this team that has had your number, that has kicked your ass a lot, but it's in your building. It's in prime time. That's set up for you to have the pressure. I don't care if the underdog, whatever the spread is. The pressure's on the Miami Dolphins here. You can't fumble it, just like it was last year, where the Dolphins were in the midst of a collapse. In some way, somehow, they could not avoid being a team that completely fell out of the playoffs. All they had to do was get this done. And you'd be like, all right, we can live with that. The Dolphins have made the playoffs, and they've had 11 wins, and that's a good season. Winning 11 games is good. That's nice. But are we here for nice, or are we here to do special stuff? Because the coach and the quarterback, they've been telling the fan base, we're here to do special stuff. So go out there this week and be special. Go out there this week and show that you can take this team out. Don't let them chase you all the way down from the place where they've been, where we were laughing at them. They were out of the playoffs. Hell, maybe you could put them in a position where you can even knock their ass out. And how sweet would that be to not only take the number 2 seed, but knock their ass the hell out of the playoffs if everything lines up correctly. So I can't wait for it. I'm jonesing for this game. I can't wait for this matchup, and I'm looking forward to it.